Okay, sometimes you may need to set up a scene that has something following a text. So for example, we have a quick scene here that we set up. If we come into our text here and start typing, you can see that little box, the green box here, follows that text. And as we delete text, that separate container of the cube here follows that. So we can set our scene up like this to work with things following on the X scale or the Y scale. So to set this up, we'll just start from scratch here, and to begin we'll go into our server and we'll grab a font. I'll just select an default Arial black font. We'll just slide this over into our scene and scale this up a bit. You can type anything in there you want for the moment, but we're just going to go into our geometry here and we're going to select some type of geometry that we want to follow this. This time I'll just drag a rectangle up here. I'm not going to worry about repositioning it or anything for the moment, but I will add a color using the color selector within the rectangle itself. And I'll just select that color, drag it down to the other ones so that we'll be able to see it. Now what I want to happen is to have this rectangle follow the text as I type in there. We're going to go into the plugins again, and this time we're looking for our auto follow. So we can go into our container plugins. We'll look for our tools folder, and within our tools folder we have our auto follow, which I'll just drag that up onto our rectangle. You can see that it automatically readjusted here when we drag that on there. So we're going to go click on our auto follow icon to go into the container settings. What we have in the auto follow, our first setting here is the X previous center. So our text is growing from the left side as we type in there, and I'm just going to leave that as is, the X previous center from the left. I'm going to come down here to the direction. That was set by default, it's the X, but we could also change that to Y, Z, XY, XZ, or YZ, whichever way you want it to follow. We want it to follow left or right, so we're using the X selection. Now we also have the reference container, and we have our option here of previous, first, other, and our previous relates to the previous container in the scene tree. Our first, we could also use that in this case because it is the first container, and we also have an other. When we select the other, that means we can slide a container into that empty box here. So we'll leave it on other for now. Lastly, what we need to concern ourselves with is the X local center. So by default, the local center of our rectangle when we drag it down was center. So I'm going to change the center X local center to center. And you can see when we did that, it shifted it a little bit. So now all we need to do is worry about our default distance here. We can place that wherever we want. We may need to readjust it on the Y a bit. So we'll go back into our text box, and now when we type and or delete type within our text box, the rectangle will follow it wherever we need it to go. If we needed to do this differently, let's delete our auto follow, and let's say we have an underline here, or our rectangle is going to be stretched out. Now, even though we can underline a word within the font option itself, we just may need an option where it follows a text down in case we add lines. And again, we can use the auto follow, so I'll slide the auto follow on to our rectangle again. This time when we click on the auto follow, instead of the direction X, we're going to use direction Y. Once we do that, it shifts a little bit, and if we come into our transformation editor here now and try to use the Y position, we can't, because the auto follow has taken it over. We can still use the X and the Z position, but no Y position, because the direction Y is selected within our auto follow. Now it's just a matter of figuring out our Y previous center. So our Y previous center refers to this container, and I'm going to leave it set to center for this. And again, we're going to use the reference container previous in this case, which refers to the previous container within the stack here, and then the Y local center, which we never changed to anything, so I'm going to leave it at center right now. And in this case, since we are on the Y, I know I'm going to need this follow negative, so I'm going to use that and turn that on. And now if I come into my text box here and I hit enter and start typing, you can see where we are. So what we may need to do now is use the auto follow. We could try the default distance here, but that may not be enough. So what else we can try is by changing the selection points or axis center points of each object here. So here we have our text box, and I'm going to select center for our text box, and I'm going to come into our rectangle and I'm going to put the axis center to center for that as well. And I'm going to come back to the auto follow, and this time just make sure everything is set to center. And if we reposition this up into our screen here and we come back in and retype our type, let's delete it, and now as we type, it should be following a little bit closer to the standards we need. We still may need to come in back into the auto follow and use the default distance here to see if it's where we want. So one more try here, we'll start typing and it's almost there. So in this case, what I might do is to go back into each transformation here, and instead of using the center, maybe I'll try the bottom in this case, and on this container I'll try the top, and then we'll come back into the auto follow. We'll change the bottom to the Y previous and top to that container, and we can use our default distance to try it again. So we'll come back and you delete that text and you start typing in again and see if that gets you any closer to where you were. That didn't work as well as the center points did. So at this point I would go back and try our center and or bottom to readjust how this is following the text in relation to the text and where we need it.